Welcome to episode 2 of Under the Hive of Madness. I am Ryan the Goblin King, and today I am joined by my co-hosts, Marky.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Beast.
Hello, everyone.
And he just teleported in from the front lines of McCraig, our guest, Kevin.
A good day, comrades.
Damn, dude, Ultramar.
Right.
That's a hell of an accent.
Come visit.
Not the right accent for Ultramar.
Yeah, right.
It worked.
It's what comes out.
It wasn't Roman enough.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't Roman at all.
That's not Roman?
It was Eastern Bloc.
Who's that?
It's right next to McCraig.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
I forgot Mark knows nothing of geography.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Eastern Bloc is in like Soviet Union.
I was going to say,
Soviet Union countries.
So the way my brain works is like there's pieces of land, right? And each piece of land has something attached to it that's a name. And that name doesn't make any sense to me. It makes no sense. So
Are you referring to continents?
Yes. Yes. So
I was
like
just
Russia,
letting it go, man.
Russia, like, and like Comrade, like, okay. Yeah. I do remember something like that. But like, you like, oh, Germany. And then I don't know. I can't think of anything for Germany.
You can't think of anything for Germany?
No.
Porsche.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't even
BMW.
Audi.
Audi.
W.
Nope.
The bad guys from World War II.
No, yeah, but I didn't want to bring that up. Like
Scheiße.
Scheiße. Okay,
Scheiße
yeah, I know
Hund.
that one. I didn't want to bring the bad guys up as like the one
How
thing I
about
know.
Bratwurst?
You mean?
I do. That's German.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You mean you don't like
What
the
about
good
beer?
techno?
Do you like the hard bass?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
the hard bass.
Okay, so that's a German accent.
The
All right,
good-
yeah.
the good
That's actually
techno?
more of Swedish. But
I was gonna say. I was like, that doesn't really sound German, but yeah.
I mean, he busted out like Crimea right off the bat from McCraig. So,
Yeah.
whatever. You know, we're a gaming podcast. We talk a lot about Warhammer 40k. So we wanted to take a second to plug our local gaming store, our LGS. For those of you who are in the Southern California area, our local gaming store is Onboard Gaming. There's some pretty great guys. There'll be a link to their webpage and some of their social media stuff in our show notes for this episode. Eric, the owner, is pretty chill. Christian and Nick, who work in the store, are also pretty awesome. They've got their own stream that they do a couple times a week. So it's definitely worth checking out and seeing what they do.
Yeah, you might see us on there. You never know.
Yeah.
You want to see some ugly dudes playing with toy soldiers and throwing dice? You're coming to the right place.
don't forget Smelly. We're very smelly.
Yes.
Ugly Dudes Playing 40K is the name of my next Craftworks.
I was gonna say the name of the
cover
next
band.
podcast.
Yeah.
Name of the next podcast episode: Fat, ugly, smelly dudes playing.
UMF plays 40K.
All right. So as a gaming group founded to play primarily Warhammer 40K, we have a big shared interest in gaming, tactics, and strategy, all elements that are heavily featured in the genre of wargaming in general. But what is wargaming? And for that matter, what is the game side of Warhammer 40K itself? If you are new to the hobby, or if you're a player with some experience with the history and structure of wargaming, this is kind of an awesome topic, and we wanted to really take some time to dive deeper into its history and also just how it's designed. I know one of my first experiences with wargaming was Risk. And since we had 2 boards at the house and I'm a huge sci-fi geek, it wasn't long until we had set them both up like on different tables and it started pretending that one was Earth and one was another planet. Building our own sci-fi rules into how the game was played before we modified all of this with some quasi role-playing rules around Legos, which we definitely talked about in our first episode. Mark, what was some of your first pre-Warhammer introduction to the idea of wargaming or strategy gaming in general?
Yeah, so I think I'm trying to remember. My family's been really poor, so we had board games like just a couple. Like old school Monopoly with like a missing boot and Clue with no candlestick. So, I mean, they were good times. But when I'm going to get real dark here real soon. When my dad came on the scene, he got me a game called Pokemon Master Trainer to win my heart. He didn't, but Pokemon Master Trainer was it's kind of like the first board game, almost like you had one little miniature, right? Your little Pokemon trainer. Okay. And it was played with Pogs. So instead of like a bunch of different Pokemon, there's Pogs all over the board for and I'm not talking about Pog like the emoji. These are Pogs.
You mean
like
Pogs, like back in the day.
Yeah, like little cardboard discs.
Yeah, do you guys remember like stacking Pogs and then slamming them?
Yeah, dude.
I had the ultimate slammer of all time.
Tom
I
had
remember the concept, but I
It was a brick.
I can't quite place the like actually playing the game.
So-
like I think I bought a pack and then never
Pogs.
got to play them.
Pogs are great, dude. I used to play all the time.
So having some experience in the Hawaiian Islands, Pogs, the game of Pog actually came from the papaya orange guava drink. Think of a milk carton, but you know, like modern milk cartons and like modern orange juice cartons, there's that pull tab on them.
Right.
Yeah.
So there used to be a Pog that covered that. And so instead of like that plastic pull tab that you rip out, there was a Pog. And you'd take it off and it had like a little character on it. So kids started collecting them and stacking. That's the whole origin of the game. Pog.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's why it's called Pog, because it's papaya orange guava.
Get the fuck out.
I mean, that's
You
what
just blew my mind.
That's
Like,
what
I'm
I was told. I have no idea if that's
You're like,
true.
right, I made all this bullshit.
You're right
Allegedly.
about the milk caps. It originated from milk caps.
Milk caps, yeah.
Ryan's like, I made all
But
this shit up.
so there's a juice in Hawaii called Pog, and it's papaya orange guava. Like that's the brand name, and their little dude, their little icon is like not a chibi. What are they? A pygmy wearing a giant tiki mask, like the spear.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
think about all the Pogs that we had. All of them were themed that way. Anyway, so you had this game.
Yeah, so Pokemon Master Trainer. We played the shit out of the game so much that we actually the game. I don't know if you guys if you
Drunk.
wow. Right.
That's my first
Bud
Light on the floor.
I was gonna say every episode Ryan has to drop something on a mic.
That wasn't on a mic, but yeah, my elbows are a
How
problem.
dare you, sir?
It's just getting Muay Thai elbows everywhere.
But yeah, so we played the shit out of that game. That game's worth like $200 on Amazon right now. I'm
You
probably
kept
eBay.
it, right?
Yeah, I still have it. It's
you're gonna
it's
sell it
literally
tomorrow.
downstairs. No, well, it's missing Meowth, so I can't sell it.
So it's not worth anything.
So it's not worth anything. Yes,
Gotcha.
exactly. Yeah,
That
Gotcha.
sucks.
but I know exactly which one I'm missing. So I mean, maybe I can
You
like,
print it?
yeah, I was gonna say I was like print it and glue it to like a little piece of cardboard. Call it good.
Just pretend.
But yeah, so that was probably like my first ever like almost miniature game. I mean,
Okay,
it's not like
okay.
super miniatures or anything. My first big miniatures game was probably Heroescape. I don't know if you guys remember Heroescape.
Do I?
I never got into it because none of my friends wanted to.
That game has led to more bloody noses and lost friends than I think anything I've
played
ever
with my
done.
little brother. It was like a little hexagonal game. So I always mistake that one with
Hero Quest.
But Heroescape is like a futuristic. It's basically like Warhammer on hexes.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that game's also worth like $200 right now. I looked them both up today.
That's
Yeah, I went shopping for them for a little while.
Yeah, it's a dope game.
So speaking of that, we talked about this episode 1 a little bit, and I did a little bit of research because somebody else had asked me a question. Games Workshop actually started out as a company that wrote games for other people. So Hero Quest is in fact a Games Workshop game. It was licensed by Milton Bradley. And that's why
That's cool.
the modern Hero Quest, like if you go buy it now, it doesn't have any of the Chaos Sorcerers or Chaos Warriors in it because those are the property
GW.
of GW.
Right.
But those old, the barbarian, the elf, the wizard, the dwarf, those are still in Hero Quest because those aren't property of.
Those are generic.
I actually learned that partially by talking to my sister. My little sister works for Hasbro. So,
Oh, that's cool.
Tom, where did you get into this crazy world of wargaming?
When'd you start dabbling, man?
Well, I'm going to blow all your guys' minds right now.
You play My Little Pony?
Miniatures, bro. Weapons and warriors.
I don't even know what the
I
fuck
was
that is.
thinking-
Is that the one with the
Same
spring-loaded
thing.
weapon?
No,
Dude,
Tom and I had a big in-depth conversation about this a long
You know,
time
lose
ago.
eyes for you blow out
dude.
somebody's eyeball.
Yeah, you just shoot your eye out.
Yep.
It was like Crossfire?
Yeah, no. So, okay,
it was like Crossfire.
Oh my God, is Crossfire
except
the one
you're
with the
shooting
little
at a
marble?
castle.
Oh my God.
Okay. So that's my first, like, honestly, I would say miniatures. But as far as like mini war gaming goes, it was probably Diplomacy and Axis and Allies.
Holy crap, man. Those are some games to bite into as a child.
Yeah. So Axis and Allies, because, you know, it started with Risk, and I thought Risk was really cool, but it was boring. So we ended up playing Axis and Allies. And I own the like $300 one. The big, like,
We got to play.
Where they're like, it's
I've always wanted to play Axis.
there's the
Allies.
Pacific, the European, Italy.
Yeah.
you're a character for all of that. Like America controls China. I have that one unopened. I'll open it if we ever want to play.
How much is it worth?
It's worth, I think right now, $200-$300, but I don't give a crap. I'd rather play it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd much rather play it.
I bought Cursed City, which is a Games Workshop board game. It's not opened. I want to open it. I want to paint the figures, and then I want to play it on stream. So that's like the same thing. Like we should, especially if you guys are
the only thing about Access and Allies, though, let me tell you, especially one that size, is it will literally take us minimum of 8 hours.
Oh yeah.
It's a long haul. Like it's best to play over like 2 days.
We could always do one of those, especially if you guys, our audience, are interested in seeing it. We could always do one of those like extra lives challenges where we play a game or we play games for 24 hours to raise money for
charity. Yeah.
Nobody's gonna fucking give us money, even for charity.
You'd be surprised.
They're gonna be like, look at these smelly, ugly men.
Access and Allies to help children in need.
They're like, I'm gonna give you $2 to stop playing.
But so that was like the first in like mini warrior weapons and warriors is. You literally have small figures of knights and rebels, and you are shooting plastic marbles at each other with spring-loaded catapults, cannons, and like crossbows.
Yeah, ballistic.
And you're literally shooting these plastic marbles across the floor at like a castle that's got spring-loaded walls and stuff. And I had 3 sets of it. And those like plastic marbles, I remember they ended up getting lost, like sold in a yard sale or whatever.
It's like
I was finding these plastic marbles for like 12 years, like throughout my house. Like I'd be like, I remember moving, when I was like in my 20s, and I was like, oh my God.
What's that, rotten pea? What is
this?
that?
This orange marble on the floor.
It's airsoft pellets and Nerf.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
I also started with Risk. It's kind of like my first strategy game. At the same time, after I started with Risk, I was also dabbling in, my neighbor introduced me into Command & Conquer on a PC.
Yeah.
The original Nod versus GDI, like way back in the day.
Westwood Games.
Yeah, Westwood Games before EA bought it out and corrupted it. as they do. Yeah, calling you out, EA.
Oh man, I'm sure they're gonna.
Because they're listening.
Like,
our number one Patreon supporter is EA. What are you doing?
Yeah. He's like, all right, Kevin, I see you.
They want to charge us DLC until to give us Patreon.
Yeah,
it's really weird, but
we actually pay them to be our sponsor.
it's the only company that happens with.
There's a subscription fee and loot boxes for it.
Loot box.
Anyway, so I was dabbling kind of on both sides, and then I too, at some point, got Weapons and Warriors. And it was the coolest thing. But what sucked kind of for me as a child is I was an only child. So I didn't like have brothers and sisters to like play board games with. So I had to find a friend to play one of these games with. And none of my friends like to think on the big strategy level. They're much more like Call of Duty strategy level.
I was going to say, let's play marbles, but I guess Call of Duty's pretty good too, right?
Like none of them want very few of them wanted to would play through like an entire Command & Conquer game.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They thought that game was too long for them. And then like even Risk and like stuff like that was like too long of a game.
Yeah, that was something I encountered with Axis and Allies.
Yeah. And I actually picked up a copy of Axis and Allies Pacific, and I tried to get my dad to play it with me. And he's like, I can't do this for more than an hour.
Oh, fuck.
So
man.
like, oh, there goes that.
That feels bad. Yeah.
And then like I tried to get one of my friends to come over and play it. And by the time we were done setting it up, he's like, I'm over it.
Jesus.
And so then, long time gap of me just playing a bunch of these games by myself on PC. All the way up through Dawn of War and everything into high school. And right at the end of high school, right after, I can't remember. I think it was Stratego. Dude, the name of it.
I used to get down on Stratego so much with my little brother. Like my little brother's a blessing.
Stratego or Diplomacy, or
they're basically the same game.
Yeah, but it was late Imperial, early World War I-ish time period.
Yeah,
big map of Europe, North Africa, and all that good stuff.
No, Stratego is a little bit more.
It's like Guess Who, but war.
Yeah.
That's
so the same as Diplomacy. Is Diplomacy just like
I've never played
like
Diplomacy.
a ranked up version?
Well, Diplomacy, you had a board, and then you had a bunch of these tiles that would face you, and then they would have theirs facing them, and they would have to Like you'd go to fight one and it would to determine what.
But it just wouldn't be like medieval Europe themed because
it was like World War I.
This one's like World War I themed.
Yeah,
so you had like ironclads, like ironclad navy.
Gotcha.
Okay, so yeah, it's just
Early
straight up
ironclad.
Stratego. Yeah.
Yeah,
I had like a
and there was
futuristic Stratego.
really cool diplomacy rules, and that's actually one of the things that I really liked about it was like you didn't start at war with everybody. You had to declare war with people, and that cost like special resource tokens. And
Interesting.
each country had like a unique like twist. So England could actually give out their own tokens to other people. Like essentially, like what ended up happening was I was playing Spain, and one of my friends was playing England, and he stabbed me in the back. And he had France declare war on me, but France didn't have enough tokens. So England used their ability to pay out tokens to like mercenary France into declaring war on me. Because I had kicked England's ass in North Africa.
Okay.
So Spain, like I came across, expanded.
That sounds way more complicated than Stratego.
Diplomacy sounds
super
like
cool.
like a couple of like
It almost like risk Stratego.
Yeah.
Because
Like,
Stratego is
yeah,
straight up like checkers.
I don't remember the name
Yeah.
of this one, but it was super cool, and I really loved it. And I only got to play it once.
Cool.
Because it was
That
like
sounds
a friend
cool.
of a friend had it, and I
Yeah.
really wanted to play it again. But at that point, then I moved on to Total War, the RTS, well, turn-based and RTS.
We'll get a little bit more into video games.
Yeah.
Throughout the episode,
Which is
definitely
that one is very similar to like
yeah.
war game style,
Oh, yeah.
like because you have blocks of units,
Yeah,
you have
modern,
map,
yeah.
things like that. Well, it's old school.
No, I'm saying like modern.
Oh, like
miniature
a modern version of
wargaming.
miniature wargaming.
Yeah, modern miniature wargaming is very much like what they call RTS video games.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, and it's funny because you brought up that your first like video game introduction was
Command and Conquer.
Command and Conquer. My first video game introduction to wargaming was Panzer Division
I remember that.
and the old Panzer Division.
Super old top down turn based, like almost 8-bit graphics.
It was a cool game. I liked it.
It was
a lot.
cool. Yeah, you could hide like anti-tank guns in trees and then ambush convoys and stuff.
I think mine was, if this can count as that, I think mine was RuneScape.
Yeah. RuneScape. I mean, that's a little bit more action
RPG,
oriented, but
yeah.
it's pretty close. Yeah. So, obviously we've all got a little bit, or we all had a little bit of history with at least the concept of wargaming.
We've all, could you say dabbled?
Yes. Dabbled. Dabbled
okay.
is the word.
Okay.
I'd say I dabbled.
No, we got that double dabble, man. All right.
So the history of wargaming has some of its roots in common with the history of military war games, but I think it's really important that we lay down a blanket statement before we move on. Warhammer 40k has evolved from roots within tactical miniatures wargaming genre, but it is much more science fiction or science fantasy than a lot of the other historical or traditional war games.
I disagree.
Also, with what?
Everything you just said.
How so?
he's just being a shit.
It's rude.
No, let's dive in. Let's unpack
He's just
this. What did I
because the
do?
commissar's not here to shoot him.
Oh, Jesus.
It's all real. Damn it.
Well, I'd say it's also on a lot small. Believe it or not, 40k is actually on a lot smaller scale.
Oh,
than
yeah.
what true mini
100%.
wargaming really
Which
was.
saddens me as an Imperial Guard player because I want to see like 1,000 guardsmen on the table.
Oh yeah.
We'll start playing Titanicus and fuck off.
Titanic, like Epic, I think is.
Oh yeah, that's what it is.
Epic
Yeah.
is the Epic is the one where you end up with like 1,000 guardsmen.
Right. Yeah. Tiny little guys.
Little baby guys.
So anyway, to get back
And
on track.
segueing back
Thank
into
you.
yes, just wanted to throw that out.
So yeah, there's definitely more that science fiction or science fantasy to Warhammer 40k than a lot of the historical or traditional war games we're going to talk about. There's also a big difference between wargaming, one word, and military war games, 3 separate words. Military war game scenarios are used by militaries around the world to teach tactics and how to look at issues that might evolve on a modern battlefield. And while they're called games, they're a lot more like training exercises.
I was gonna say I've done 2 of those.
Yeah, we are literally not going to talk about that stuff at all. We're talking about games.
We're not going to talk about Mount Town.
I really don't want to go into my operations right now.
We're not going to talk about Mount Town.
However, we are going to dip into games that evolved out of tactical games like Kriegspiel into the modern tabletop miniatures wargaming subgenre. The earliest roots of wargaming, we have games like Weihai, which is Chinese for encircling, which is similar to the modern game of Go. Other early games are Chaturanga, which is an ancient Indian proto chess. And I'm going to butcher this, and one of you guys might know it, but Henfatal, the Viking game.
Yeah, I totally know what you're talking about.
You don't.
I know what it looks like. I don't know how to pronounce it.
It's a Norse.
Yeah,
word.
I think it's pronounced like Heinferdal.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Like,
so it's a Viking game which can draw very clear lines.
oh, it's Heinferdal. Like it's weird. It's like Heinferdal.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It sounds Viking.
The
right?
dude
Just threw some phlegm in there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all.
The dude at the meadery can say it like perfectly. Should have recorded him and just brought it.
I was like, it's not him,
It's a
doll.
soundbite.
So those two games, Chaturanga and
Heimdall.
we can draw very clear lines between those in modern chess or games like Nine Man's Morris, which is also an ancient game, but it's regaining play now. These can often be used to explain the foundations of modern tactical gaming or modern tactical thinking. However, everything changed in the 1600s with the introductions of the King's Game. This game introduced 30 pieces per side, which depicted 14 different military units, each of which had their own set of movement and varying combat rules. This can arguably seen as the first major variation towards what we now call modern tabletop wargaming. This game and others like it were, however, primarily enjoyed as recreation by nobles and those in their courts, even though they could also have been used at the time to teach overviews into honing tactical skills or developing strategic thinking.
Well, that's actually, I believe, one of the first instances of what it was used for was to reenact active battles so as they could gain a like top view advantage of how the battle actually took place and like how it occurred and its tactics, rather than that being of a point of view. It was from up
bird's
top.
eye.
Yeah, bird's eye view.
But
exactly.
at this point, they were still using essentially boards with no definition. There's no map yet. It was just a
unit
board,
position.
and they
There's
were
no
kind of
topography.
playing with, there's no topography.
Later they ended up using the topography for it.
So personally, when I was younger, I was taught checkers and chess by my father as a combination of bonding and obviously kind of getting those teaching tools of strategic and tactical thinking. Although I think that his direction was a little bit more to impress the values of critical thinking and patience on me. A knightly court in the 10th century would have used it to like go, young Johnny, you need to learn these tactics. You need to learn how battlefield works and all that sort of stuff. You mentioned it in episode 1, and I also had one. We mentioned our handcrafted marble chess sets. Do any of you guys have early memories of playing chess, checkers?
Actually, I do.
Hey.
So I think it was the 5th grade. So I was 10. We had this guy called Mr. Rick. I don't think he was a TA. It was just like some guy that hung out around our elementary school.
He wasn't supposed to be within 100 yards of the school.
Real Freddy Krueger vibes right now.
Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Rick. No. But he basically would sit down in the hallway and play chess. And
without wearing any pants.
Yeah. And if you lost, you'd have to give him a handy.
This story is not getting better, bro.
No. He was a really cool dude. He taught us all chess, and he basically just taught us the value. He liked to humble us. He beat the shit out of us in chess.
Oh yeah.
And if you won, you would basically win a chess set. And we actually had like little tournaments and stuff. Yeah, it was. I learned chess from that, and like honestly, I love chess, and I retaught his values of whooping everybody's ass in chess that I play. I'm not saying I'm really good, but I've beaten everybody that I played so far, including the wife, all my kids, my wife's little students. I beat all their asses and her cousins, and I'm not bragging or anything, but I might be good at chess. I think. I don't know. We'll play one day.
I
Is
thought
this because you play chess with I win rules?
Yes.
I guarantee you'll beat me because I'm as much as I can look at a very complicated tactical situation and think my way out of it. If you restrict the amount of resources that I have to like govern, I have a tendency to overthink and fuck up really, really bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I used to think I was good at chess. And then I was like, oh, you know what? I want to start playing chess again. So I downloaded one of the like phone apps for like play chess.
Yeah.
The third turn I lost every single time.
Well,
I was like, I don't know how the hell I could do this. Like,
So
I'm on the easiest setting.
Yeah.
Like,
There's certain mistakes that if you make, basically guarantee that you're going to lose by turn 3.
yeah.
And the AI or other people
We'll take advantage of that.
and that's like one of the first things you kind of learn is like how to punish people's early fuck ups. That's kind of like what I've been taught is like, oh, well, if they're dumb enough to do this move, like punish them for it.
Yeah. Do you guys remember Regicide?
Yeah.
That's 40K.
Yeah, 40K.
Yeah, it's 40K.
40K
Yeah.
chess.
Yeah.
They play in universe too.
Yeah, so they actually have like a story mode of that where like you actually play out like little it's chess rules, but they add like flavor to it of like you get to shoot and melee and do other things and like
cool.
psychic and
That's
stuff
cool.
mode, because the story mode I fucking suck at. I don't know if it's the
I see what you're
RNG aspect of it, but like
That
playing
could be
normal
part of
chess,
it.
I'm like, yeah, I play normal chess so that way I can feel better about losing in story mode.
And that's actually kind of the weird thing, because as shit as I can be at games like chess or Go or anything that's kind of that micro scale,
Right.
if it goes down even one more step into things like Mordenheim or Kill Team, I'm actually good again. But I think it's because, again, it's even less units. So I have to think even more on my feet. And that overthinking part's gone. And there's an RPG element. So
You have fun
I
with
care. Like, I don't really care about pawns.
And
And
you're not supposed to care about pawns. That's their purpose.
right. But you also have to know how to, you have to care in a way that you don't care.
Well, yeah.
You have to see their value.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time seeing their value.
I noticed that like with Tom
I
and
make
I
mistakes
played
at chess.
Tom and I played like Kill Team, and it was very like, it felt very much like chess. I don't know if Tom felt that way, but when I was playing him, I was like, oh, this feels a lot like chess. Like the movement. No, you didn't feel that way. Okay.
I was
it's just
playing
me.
Tau. All I had to do was shoot you.
Yeah, and you did.
Yeah. I was like, Tau and Kill Team are horrendous. Like, there's no thought. There's no thought. I'm just like, I'm here and I win.
you're like, oh, you kill me? No, you kill a drum.
Yeah, exactly.
Sit down, shut up, and take
I'm
this
like,
pulse rifle to the
take
face.
this rail. I'm going to headshot a tank right now with this railgun. Like,
It's all that pews.
yeah. Hey, and you know what? It's the only thing they're good at right now. So I'll take it.
Yeah.
So long story short, thank you, Mr. Rick, for teaching me how to play chess.
There you go.
Yeah. I have
And a hell of a hand job.
really early memories of checkers. Like way back in the day. I can't remember if, like off the top of my head if it was my mom or my grandparents or both, but I played a lot of checkers when I was really young, like really young. And then eventually when I got into 8th grade, I had this really cool teacher. He taught us all kinds of crazy stuff. But one of the things he taught us was chess. So he actually had us in our 8th grade class participate in a like in-class chess tournament. And he taught us some of like the basic principles. Like I said, like if you do this move right off the bat, like you can get easily punished for it. So like he was teaching us things like that. He also taught us like he also taught us like some finishing moves. Like once you can get their
Fatality.
yeah, he taught us this cool one where if you have a rook and a queen left, you can effectively checkmate somebody and there's nothing they can do about it.
That's cool.
Like towards the end of the game, like once there's a certain amount of pieces removed.
Yeah, you walk them back.
Yeah, you can, you make the box and you just pin them into a corner and there's nothing they can do about it.
We used to call it the walk of shame.
Yeah, exactly. You just slowly do it.
Yeah, they're like, I can't do it.
There's nothing
These
they
two
can do about it.
motherfuckers are like, oh yeah, jargon here. Oh, special word here. And I'm just like,
rooking and
man,
and check.
fuck chess.
And checkmate. No.
So essentially you're just, you have two pieces that can move infinitely across the board.
Yeah, I got you.
And you just kind of slowly walk them to pin the king because the king can only move one. So if you check him, he has to move out or they have to kill your piece.
And then
because they can do
corner.
it from across the board, you can effectively sit out of threat range of their pieces and still pin their king.
Yeah, I've lost chess that way.
All I know from checkers is they're pretty cool patterns. I like the tiles. And the last time I had anything to do with checkers, a buddy of mine, a mutual friend actually of mine and Ryan's, set up this whole big spiel at a festival where we were at, where it was "Come Battle the Beast," and I had retired from my actual cage fighting that I did at the event. And I was just doing this battle for the beast.
Right?
Yeah, I was in
Thunderdome.
Battle Cage.
wasn't called
Yeah, it was
Thunderdome?
Battle-
No, I did Battle
Battle
Cage.
Cage.
Thunderdome isn't real fighting. Battle Cage was real.
Oh, really?
Real cage fighting.
Yeah, so
You know what?
yeah,
Yeah,
Battle Cage is climbing in like full plate armor.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
beating
with the
shit.
with
Yeah,
the
when they
band
beat
and
the
shit.
hell out of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did Battle of Nations for years, and they were
Yeah, me
like-
too.
And they were like, "Oh yeah, you should get into Battle Cage," and I'm gonna murder somebody.
You'd be surprised. Fights were over usually pretty quick. Most of the guys would.
Some guy was just put to sleep.
Yeah, well,
Oh no! Like I saw a 1v2, and the single guy
What?
basically just like decked the first dude that came up. He hit the ground and was like out of breath. Like he
Yeah.
didn't get up for like 30 seconds.
My
Like,
first-
he had to like gather his wits. Like he.
my first fight.
Yeah.
My first fight ever in Battle Cage was 36 seconds. And I went in there and completely beat the crap out of
I was
this
saying,
dude.
you were looking at a guy like my size on the other
No,
side. Like,
the guy who I fought was one of their like Lanistas. He was
Oh,
one
he's a
of
big
the
dude?
trainers. Yeah.
oh, fuck.
And
I mean, if you get rocked in the head, you get rocked in the head.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a level of not to put anybody on a spot that enjoys this particular art and music festival, but there's a level of training that goes into Battle of Nations and competing in the ring in full plate armor with swords that people who do it once or twice a year just don't involve themselves with. So you take one or two shots to the head and
Yeah, you
something
get
like
rocked.
Battle of Nations, you know,
Well,
you
the
need to
biggest-
back off and breathe.
the hardest thing about fighting in Battle Cage for the cage fighting at this festival was the amount of dust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because
I'm
I mean,
sure
the
that's what gets
second
kicked up
the
like
second you hit that
crazy.
ground, you have a
Yeah.
mouthful of dirt.
That's probably
you
why
know?
it took the dude forever to get up. Like,
Yeah.
he landed like face down and like
Yep.
No, I mean,
full of dust.
Well, and
wind
people
knocked
also
out of
don't-
him.
I had
also
to
don't
I had
back
to
off.
fight I had to fight 3 guys in a row. And first fight I stayed up, second fight I stayed up, third fight I got knocked down. And once I got knocked down, I was like, I can't breathe, you know.
Yeah, it
So,
makes a lot of sense.
I lost my third fight, but
Yeah.
you know, that was also I was fight
Yeah, I was
fought
just
one
saying,
dude,
yeah.
fought a second dude, you know.
Yeah, you're already winded.
I was gassed, yeah. But anyway,
So you're doing live checkers?
yeah, so the whole thing was he was like, well, you're a retired cage fighter. I want you to be my main attraction.
Yeah, yeah.
You're going to be Battle the Beast. And I was like, cool, who am I fighting? He's like, now you're going to be playing checkers.
You're like, oh,
And I was like, no, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, all right,
I've never
cool.
played checkers.
Well, yeah. So like I've played checkers since I was like 6.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there. Yeah, you were there.
I was there.
And the guy who was playing was like a fucking pro, like checkers
He
player.
was just wrecking
Yeah, he's just wrecking me. And I'm just like, you can do that? Like, you know, and he's like,
Battle the
he's like, wait a
Oh,
minute.
did
Are you-
somebody
I
fucking
thought you were
like
the
king
beast.
you?
yeah,
Just
like,
what
no, he straight up like kinged like 4 of his pieces.
Yeah,
and he's like, I thought I was supposed to battle the beast. I was like, well, I ain't ever played checkers.
What you should have done is you should have pulled a pro Warhammer 40k thing and been like, I need to see your errata. I need to see your FAQ. And we need to verify in your codex and in the main rule book.
Well, the best part.
Show me where that rule is right now.
No, the best part.
Right, meow.
The best part
Let's
was
stop
that
this entire game to argue.
I had brought, so the thing was that every time that you lost a piece or you took a piece, you know, you or the opponent would take a shot.
Right, yeah. That was the whole battle to be.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. Well, I
Oh
had
man,
brought-
that happened in my camp.
Yeah, that's it. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember this
Yep.
now.
Yeah. I was gonna say you were. I think you were.
Yeah,
there
you
too.
were there.
Yeah, it was my camp.
Yeah, yeah.
That was in my
I wasn't there. I
encampment.
was
Yeah.
probably drunk.
No, yeah.
No, you
Well, no,
weren't.
but the best part of it was like I had a bottle of coffee. So I'm just doing shots like crazy.
Yeah.
And nobody ever like that was the part that made it the best was like they were like, dude, man, like, yeah, Beast lost at checkers, but that fool drank like 4 bottles of booze. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, are you drunk? I'm like, no, I'm fine. You know? And like they didn't know I was drinking coffee. Like, you know.
It was an attraction.
Yeah, well, that was the whole point of it.
Now-
was like just to get
have a
people
good
over to
time,
the camp.
yeah.
Now they know though.
No, yeah,
You've
no.
let the cat
No.
out of the bag.
Oh, they knew by the end of the night anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, that
They're
was
like, hey, let me
that
drink
was
some of that.
that was my experience with checkers.
That's pretty
retired cage fighter.
So there was a lot of micro tweaking that went into the emergence of wargaming from the early Renaissance period into the early 1800s. One example being the use of a sand table that was set up to represent specific scales and specific topography. But as they evolved, they continued to migrate further into a position of a game played by the princely courts and nobility, and were often ultimately underappreciated as a useful wargaming tool. All of these small variations and added on rule sets and handmade sand tables and maps were mostly dismissed as legitimate war games, but all of that was about to change with the development of Kriegspiel. Kriegspiel had a number of pretty big innovations in the emerging genre, but arguably the largest was the inclusion of topographical maps, which were used to display real-world locations and even former battlefields as the area of gameplay. It was these changes that sold the idea to the Prussian Prince Wilhelm, who in turn, the chief of his Prussian general staff, General von Muffling, to look at this type of game and take it a bit more seriously. Here is a quote from this moment in wargaming history.
Gentlemen, the general announced, Herr von Rieschwitz is going to show us something new. Rieschwitz was not abashed by the somewhat lukewarm introduction. He calmly set out his Kriegspiel map. With some surprise, the general said, "You mean we are to play for an hour on a map? Very well. Show us a division with the troops." "May I ask your excellency," replied Rieschwitz, "to provide us with general and special ideas for maneuver and to choose 2 officers to be the commanders for both sides. Also, it is important that we only give each commander in the special idea the information he would have in reality." The general seemed rather astonished at the whole thing, but began to write out the necessary idea. "We are allocated as troop leaders to both sides, and the game began." One can honestly say that the old gentleman, so cool towards the idea at the beginning, became more and more interested as the game went on, until he exclaimed, "This is not a game. This is training for war. I must recommend it to the whole army."
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So Rieschwitz.
Rieschwitz.
That's what I'm naming my next animal.
Reese's Pieces.
And then you guys will be like, why can you never pronounce your cat's name? And I'll be like, I don't fucking know.
You're like, get over here, Ree.
Goddamn Ree. Since then, Kriegspiel has continued to advance and is used in some cases today, both as a social tabletop game and as a military war game.
Oh, that's the name of the actual game.
Yeah,
Kriegspiel, which literally translates to war game.
Yeah.
This
Really?
is what I was telling you
Krieg
earlier.
meaning war,
Oh, okay,
and
this is what
spiel is play.
Since then, Kriegspiel has continued to advance and it is used in some cases today, both as a social tabletop game and as a military war game. Although admittedly, what modern militaries use is probably massively advanced and specialized for their specific needs. However, it really is Kriegspiel in a lot of ways that led to the advancement in tabletop games like Avalon Hill Wargames, Axis and Allies, Flames of War, Chainmail, which later became Dungeons & Dragons, and so much more. There are war games in today's market which cover everything from samurai and ancient Greeks to aliens and cyberpunk street gangs, not to mention the homebrew rules, which let you mix all of these miniatures into one game. Personally, I've never played Kriegspiel, but when I was still in the early years of my own Warhammer hobby, I did get into some of those Avalon Hill battles, you know, the little books that you could buy in the spindle.
I don't think I ever played those.
They were basically right next to the Warhammer section in the store, and it was easy enough to mess around with. Probably because of this, most of my early homemade terrain, which you guys have seen a lot of, and a lot of the foundational rules I use for making terrain now often have a really heavy World War II influence. Most of the stuff I do looks a lot like a bombed out European city. Think Dresden. Yeah, that's just sort of the stuff that I really gravitated towards. I also dabbled a little bit in Greek warfare game. I can't remember the name of it, but it's very much focused around hoplites and phalanxes and how to use them. But it was around this time that I got that Warhammer Battle Masters game that I mentioned that was published by Belton Bradley from like 1993-ish. I know Tom and Kevin, you guys definitely have experience with Flames of War and other historical war games. Can either one of you kind of dig into Kriegspiel and how it's actually played and what it actually looks like?
Yeah, I mean, essentially from what I remember, I've looked into it and I've actually seen what it is. It was developed just as this like giant box, like a trunk, right?
Yeah, they were like all handmade.
Yeah, everything was handmade. All the pieces, they were metal pieces to dictate like what the units were. And I believe, I don't know, Kevin, did it have dice? It didn't have dice. It had something else that like dictated chance.
I don't remember exactly how it worked. Like I looked into it, but I didn't get super into it because I knew it was kind of dated by our present standards.
Yeah.
But I always like had more of like an image of it in my mind. And it was like there's always a scene in like old war movies where there's like a bunch of officers in a bunker somewhere and the guys are like using sticks to push all the little troops around on the big table.
Yep, totally.
And it's like there's a radio guy comes in and then like an orderly goes and runs over and does the thing, but the generals are just kind of there like sipping their coffee. Like that's always what I imagine Kriegspiel to be. And by the way that description is, you know, that's kind of what it was. They had the two different guys sitting kind of in different places and their orderlies running back and forth telling where the troops were moving to.
Yeah, because that was the thing is like the maps were real.
Yeah, they were real battlefield maps.
Yeah, they were actual battlefield maps and they were massive. Yeah. Like inside of this trunk, there was like 4 or 5 of them, I think. It depended on who it was being made for. But it would take up an entire like dining table. And that's the thing is like when you think of a dining table for a nobleman, that's a like big fucking table. Feet. Yeah.
10 chairs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but basically what it was is like, if you can imagine passing orders and just like Kevin said, like they have, they had these like metal brackets that were like name badges almost. And each one of those symbolized a unit. So they'd have them in formations. They'd have different speeds set by measurements for others. But what I can't remember is I think it might have been cards. I think it was dice.
I think they used cards. I don't know why, but I have cards.
They used something to signify chance.
Well, so if I remember correctly, and it's been years, but at one point I did a little bit of like research into it, and I'm pretty sure it started as cards and it eventually became dice.
Yeah, I know dice played a part in it at some point. I just don't remember when.
And I think if you go and buy, because you can go and buy Kriegspiel now. I don't remember who publishes it, but there's a German company that publishes it, and it definitely comes with like those little painted wooden bitty things.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And it comes with dice.
Yeah. It's essentially, it's kind of like, it's very similar to like Axis and Allies, but you bring it down in scale. Yeah. Like this was one battle.
Yeah.
You know, and it was whatever size that battle would be, but it wouldn't be anything more than like 30,000, you know, like.
Well, yeah, because that was back when it was lines of regimental foot infantry, Napoleonic style battles.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm pretty sure the War College in Annapolis actually has an original set, or maybe not an original set, but like a set that dates back to this time as well.
Quote unquote ancient set.
Yeah. It's pretty neat. I mean, it's interesting to see that, like, again, you know, this is the taste of history of wargaming on the tabletop, which lays out a lot of the steps that really did lead to modern games like Age of Sigmar and Warhammer 40k.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, and there's one thing specifically that I actually wanted to comment on this, and I had actually told Mark this earlier. It was a game for nobility.
Oh, yeah.
Right? For nobles. Nobles would play this game.
Peasants ain't got time for games.
Well, but that was the other thing is it's like, you know, this is nobility. Like, I mean, I've done a lot of research into history on my heritage going back to England and things like that. And when nobility, you know, was a difference in class in so many different ways that warfare, you don't get, like, if you weren't a noble, you didn't get to think about strategy.
No, you got to fight and die for your country, and that was about it.
You were very much the bottom line. Only nobles would think about strategy.
I mean, up until this time, you were born a noble and thus commanded men because you were born into it.
Yeah.
Or you had a rich family at a certain point who could then purchase your commission.
Yeah.
Which basically was buying your entry into
and that's
lower nobility via war college.
Even this like Kriegspiel, like, it would have been illegal for some people to play this game.
Oh yeah.
You know, like that's just how like elite that this game was. And to think about it now, like it's branched down to all of us.
Gatekeepers is what I'm
well, no, but I mean,
no, dude,
that's what I'm saying. The class segregation.
Everything about the way that we look at modern life, the way that we look at our modern caste system, if you want to call it that, the way that we look at democracy in the West is all predicated on changes that came about because of the Industrial Revolution and because of the People's Revolution in France, like 4 freaking civil wars in France in a row.
Speaking another language to me.
This is all stuff that happened in like the late 1800s.
Blah, blah, blah. History.
Everything. That's exactly what I'm hearing.
Everything changed. Everything changed massively 200 years ago.
Yeah.
And we have
after we guillotined all the, or not we, but
the French,
after the French after all the French nobility got beheaded,
got ganked,
the monarchies were all like, let's back off a little bit.
Perhaps we should all give up our power, except for England and Russia, which for some reason decided to hold it. And
so never said on the British Empire. Just gonna say,
yeah, history. Obviously,
I don't know. Tea ends up in the harbor, though.
If
the best way to drink tea, throw it in the fucking ocean.
you guys are salty bitches. So it makes sense.
If our listeners haven't got this yet, history and geography
I don't know
my
about you,
strongest subjects.
I don't think
and math.
the UK has made it to the moon yet.
And words. English.
the US
English.
has
I think
either.
is the subject. Worker composition.
Just Mark's here.
I'm here.
Mark's really good at
I
eating.
just live here.
Mark's really good at painting.
I like to paint.
Look, so my whole thing,
my
Really good at
fingers.
painting.
my whole thing about commenting on the fact of nobilities and stuff using this is that, you know, we're hopefully most of the people listening are into miniature wargaming and are into just this type of gaming and understanding strategy. You know, this really is like, for us to be able to just pick it up and do it is something very impressive, you know, like that, you know, like it, we're talking hundreds of years of development.
You saying
no, will you just let me freaking finish, Mark?
Who gave him too many energy
I
drinks
did,
today?
right?
He's
Oh, God.
sassy.
The fact that anybody can get into wargaming and practice strategy really shows you like an evolution of us as people and as like a growing intellectual mind. Yeah, species. Yeah.
So
exactly.
So what Beast is alluding to is there is a very rich and incredibly deep history here, and we barely
and what Mark is trying to ruin.
Derail over there.
So let's take a little bit of a look at the modern side of gaming and how that's changed. Arguably, we can't continue having this conversation without addressing the elephant in the room, which is
Mark,
as Kevin likes to bring up.
I've only gained a little bit of weight. Fucking rude.
I wrote one joke.
Are you trying to tell her right now?
About video games, and you motherfuckers ruined it.
or made it better.
Made it better. We'll go with made it
Double
better.
stack. Hit me with it.
Yeah, so the elephant in the room when we talk about modern wargaming is video games. War games have changed a lot as video game industry has grown, and nowadays it's hard to really see any genre inside of video games that doesn't at least have a few wargaming titles. First-person shooters like Call of Duty, battle royales like PUBG and Fortnite, and MOBAs like League of Legends are some of the most visible representations of quote-unquote war games. They aren't easily as translatable to the tabletop wargaming experience. While titles like Space Marine and Vermintide are fun and packed with lore from this universe or from these universes, they're also not in the style of game of Warhammer 40k on tabletop either.
Right. That's like
Probably-
what I was saying. Like RuneScape would probably be like the roots of those, right?
Yeah. Probably the most notable game that helps the feel of how war games and Warhammer 40k plays is the most notable genre, not the most notable game, would be real-time strategy games, which Tom brought up earlier.
Yeah.
There's a lot of well-known classics, everything from Dune 2 to Command and Conquer, Warcraft and Starcraft. These all give an overall feel for aspects like movement, combat power, tactical response times. But they also provide a heavy focus on balancing a production economy. And Warhammer on the tabletop does not have production economy worked in.
No, this is Warhammer on tabletop is very much more like Total War.
Yeah.
Where
On the
when
more
you go to
tactical,
well, when you start a battle, this is your units.
Yep.
This is the only things you get for this battle. And then afterwards, it goes back to a big picture kind of strategy.
Yeah, and that's more the tactical side of the RTS game genre or the turn-based game genre. And that's where we get games like Dawn of War, Company of Heroes, Myth of the Fallen Lords, where you're really falling back to produce units only if gameplay dictates it. You might have to rescue units from a building.
Right.
You might have to unlock a control point, something like that.
Yeah, Company of Heroes had to, if you wanted to reinforce your squads or if they were getting pinned down, you could actually retreat them back and they would run all the way back to your base so you could reinforce them and send them back out rather than need to waste the veterancy or the resources to produce an entirely new squad. Dawn of War did the same thing, except you didn't have to fall back. You could just plop them down. They'd basically just teleport.
And Myth would do the thing where if you got to that flag, there were some dudes handcuffed behind the flag. And then you got those dudes.
You could recruit.
Yep.
Okay.
Another important game style that has a lot of parallels with tabletop wargaming is turn-based strategy. These are games like Civilization, which deal with the massive concept of like the entire rise and fall of an empire. Other titles that are a little bit smaller might be like Final Fantasy Tactics or Panzer General, which we mentioned earlier, would deal a little bit more with like skirmishes in small areas. Then we get kind of the new hybrid model is the only way I can kind of think of it, like Total War, which Kevin's mentioned a couple of times, where you're pretty much playing Civilization, and then every once in a while you get to break out into an RTS game, but you have no production value. You have nothing you can do as far as making new units.
One of my favorite games, Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, is a turn-based RTS strategy. So you have an economy that you are to upkeep, and basically you're preventing Cylons from taking over these planets.
Right.
So that gains you resources, so you may then build your fleet and then enter in a turn-based combat of fleet sizes.
Yeah, I think they call those like triple X games. Is that what it is?
No,
Kevin?
that 4X games
4X,
are.
I'm thinking porn.
Expand, explore.
You playing daddy dating sims over there?
No, that's
Triple X games, guys.
No, 4X games.
That's what I was thinking of.
Those are like expand, explore. I don't remember the rest of the
Gotcha,
but those are more like
Gladius.
Sins of a Solar Empire.
Yeah, Sins is pretty cool.
That's a good one.
Stellaris
is
it's the ones where there's it's like a big picture strategy game, but there's a lot of like RPG elements kind of put into it, flavor elements. So that way it's more like playing a cool story.
It's like Civilization on steroids.
Have you ever played Gladius?
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's a 4X game.
Okay.
Where you're trying, like the maps are different every time. You're trying to go out, explore, and like develop something.
Okay, so that's not like what you were saying, Tom.
No, so literally what I'm saying is
I have this one too.
It's a turn-based strategy game. So instead of it being real-time strategy, where you're both doing things simultaneously and it's in real time, this is more you plan your move, you execute your move simultaneously, and then resolve.
Okay, so that's the difference. Simultaneous.
Yeah. So it's your planning phase is done on your own time. So it's pause. You plan out your maneuvers of all of your ships and your fleet. You execute your maneuvers. Then,
just like X-Wing.
Yeah.
Everybody plans all their stuff and then you hit go and it simulates the turn.
X-Wing, the tabletop game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not X-Wing,
right. Not X-Wing flight sim.
No. So it's really unique because it's starting a whole new style of
it is starting a trend. There are other games that are starting to go with this simultaneous turn-based concept.
I was gonna say, isn't XCOM kind of like that?
XCOM is exactly like that.
XCOM, it's back and forth.
It's back and forth. It's not
it's simultaneous execution. It is plan, maneuver, resolve, plan, maneuver, resolve.
Gotcha. Okay.
These ones are traditional turn-based games.
These ones are plan, simultaneous maneuver, and resolution.
So there's a game.
It's like X-Wing, where like if your ships crash into each other because you both picked to do a maneuver that ends in the same place.
I haven't played X-Wing. That's why I'm trying to come up with like different.
You haven't played it all on tabletop?
Nope.
Okay, that's why you don't get the reference.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, is it like this?
Okay.
Neat game, and it's super cheap on Steam, called like Super Massive Spaceship Battles.
Gratuitous space battles.
Gratuitous space battles. You basically pick all the ships you want and you give them basic directions. Like, I want you to move forward and shoot. And then you hit go, and your opponent does the same and hits go. And there's no
control.
There's no control. As soon as you hit go, it's just go. They just do what they want. And sometimes
that sounds pretty chaotic and fun. I like it.
It's ridiculous. There's no guarantee anything's going to work.
I've had a force overwhelmingly dominating the enemy and just decide, we're retreating. I'm like, why? Nothing happened. Why are you retreating?
Yeah, I picked that up for like $2 on Steam. Played it for a little while. I was like, there's no real strategy here. It's just about watching chaos explode.
But but it probably was, because it came out 10-ish years, 10, 11 years.
Yeah, this style of gameplay now that's coming out that I'm paying really close attention to because I love it.
Yeah, me too.
Real-time strategy is cool and all, but I hate the fast-pacedness where you're like, oh my God, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this.
I can't micro Korean StarCraft level, dude.
Yeah. Oh man, I was so good at
Command and Conquer Generals.
I watched the StarCraft tournament and I'm like, their fingers are moving at a blur speed.
Yeah, you have to know all your hotkeys.
Yeah.
You can't like comprehend what's happening sometimes. Like things are just so crazy.
Yeah, because
I was never good at that.
Because they're having to do it in real time. And this being able to take your time and plan out your maneuvers, it's just so much more fun. And Battlestar Galactica Deadlock does it, which is anybody who knows me knows that I have like a crazy
Tom
chub
and I
for
actually
Battlestar
played
Galactica.
against each other in that game. And
We fought each other
funny
because
we were on Discord. And
this was the flak run. Then.
where he flacked his own ship. I'm like, what are you doing?
because so I had two of these battle stars, which if you've seen the show, you kind of have a respect for what they're capable of, but they can put up a flak field. And Tom was playing as the Cylons, which have a lot of missiles. So they fired a bunch of missiles. And I knew he was firing a bunch of missiles because you could see him the previous turn.
Well, like, and that was the thing is I fired him at his front and I was like, he can't get his flak wall up. He's not going to turn it on. He'll flak his own ships. What does he do? Flaks his own ships.
I pulled all, I had already.
That's an Imperial Guard player phrase right there.
Well, but the thing is flak doesn't hurt capital ships. It only hurts fighters.
That's an Imperial Guard player right there.
It's, oh man,
my tanks will be fine. Fuck my troops.
Yeah. And so basically what I did is I overlapped the two ships' field of fire across each other to take out his torpedoes.
Yeah. It's all right though. I warped behind him and did it again.
Well, yeah,
so
then he teleported behind me and fired a torpedo volley up my butthole. That didn't end well, but
send this motherfucker to battle school. That's all I'm saying.
It was really fun because like we both would plan out our turns and then we'd hit go. And I think it's like 12 seconds.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's what's cool.
Like a little movie of what's going down.
What is this? Cool. What is this game type called? Like,
simultaneous
it's just a
simultaneous turn-based.
It's a hybrid turn-based game.
STS simultaneous.
Yeah. There's new games coming out. The new,
the Starship Troopers game is going to be this.
Get the fuck out.
Yep. It's going to be that.
I'm all about that
strategy game that's coming out.
The new 40k game.
The new 40k one. The little I had the name of it earlier. I can't remember. Battle Sector.
Oh,
the Blood Angels versus Tyranids one.
Yeah.
That one's the same thing. Simultaneous turn based.
That's supposed to be the basically like the
invasion of Baal.
Yeah, the invasion of Baal. Right.
Yeah. But that's something that's really an evolution that's occurring right now as we speak, which is actually really exciting.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Yeah. So to kind of all bring it back to the topic of the show, the name of the day. How is 40K itself played on tabletop, you might ask? As a tactical war game, generally speaking, two players agree on a point value. They then design their armies utilizing that point value, and then they take turns establishing or specifically picking a battlefield scenario or designing the board. This is information that's all provided in the rule book or in their independent codexes. And then the game is played out in phases that make up each player's turn. Dice are used to introduce an element of randomness into the game, simulating the old adage of no battle plan survives contact with the enemy. That's a really simple overview of the rules and the sequence and style of play. If you need more of a visual picture, usually players meet at kind of a standard conference table. We'll measure off the battlefield, and then we use a mix of terrain and battle maps to simulate that battlefield, to immerse ourselves into that setting. Miniatures are used to identify the armies that we're playing and to show where those pieces are on the board. And gameplay advances as we alternate between our different moves and our different turn phases. And this can be done in a variety of ways. A lot of people will start off stacking a couple of textbooks on top of each other and maybe putting a piece of felt over it. And then it'll advance into actually making terrain. Some people will start off with unpainted gray models. Some people will play the game for 25 years and still not paint their goddamn models. Some people will use like I'm not talking about things. Myself at all.
You use like chess pieces, for example.
Yeah. I've seen someone use a dipstick as a ruler.
Yep. There's the picture that circulates around of those guys playing Warhammer in Kuwait with like 50 cal shells and stuff.
Yep. Get the hell out. That's really that's a good idea.
I don't remember if it was Kuwait or it was either Kuwait or Iraq or something from like the first Gulf.
Oh, no, we knew. Desert Storm.
We knew.
And they're
guys
sitting there in their deserts, like, and they just have like rocks and spent shells, and it's supposed to. I think the little tagline says it's Eldar versus orcs. Yeah, but they have the White Dwarf magazine like in the picture. It's pretty crazy.
I mean, I know guys during the ongoing conflict that have taken like cardboard printouts over to specifically.
Oh yeah, because you can stack
because they can stack it in their kit and just take it with them. Yeah, so let's just really quickly go over everything. First off, point values. What do they mean and how are they used?
They're mainly just used for balancing in the game. I mean, when you play the game, obviously you're looking at balance. Obviously in war, there's different things that
unbalance the game.
Right. Yeah. So
war's not balanced.
Exactly. So this is just, and this isn't war simulation. This is like war, like have fun.
Yeah,
so
fun war.
Exactly. So you want to play.
As the old name Kriegspiel, war play.
War play.
We're playing here. This is for fun.
Exactly. So like points values are basically just meant for just to standardize things and make it fair.
Yeah.
At least in my eyes.
So you'll agree on like 1,500 points, and then both people build the 1,500 points, and that's your balance.
Yeah, it's kind of like your currency.
Yeah. Makes sense. So designing an army is definitely the second part. And we've already talked a little bit about factions, or we will be talking a little bit about factions coming up. Designing an army.
That really comes down to what, your play style and how you want to be. Do you want to be aggressive? Do you want to use specific types of tactics? And designing an army is designing an army to the tactics that you want to play and the strengths of that. So
yeah, what's fun to you?
Exactly. Yeah. So like, I really like guys with big sniper rifles, so I'm going to have a good amount of that, things like that. It's designing them to how you want to utilize and how you feel best at utilizing those things,
Then, of course, there's picking a scenario or randomly generating a battlefield.
Yeah, that's always a fun part of like, oh, we should put these buildings over here. We can, and you get to agree with it. So it's kind of like you get to tell a little cooperative world building.
Like a down ship that we have.
Like we have that all like certain like groupings of terrain. Like we have the whiskey outpost, and that's you can like tie certain pieces of terrain to certain narratives.
Yep, like orky terrain.
We have orky terrain for when we want to like wog it up. We've got whiskey outpost for some Imperial Last Stand action. We have crashed ships for just like all out apocalypse level battles.
And you can drop objective markers on the table or have pieces of terrain that are objectives.
Right. You can either play it by like the codex specific. These are where the objectives are supposed to be, like for a balanced game, or you can just totally BS it and make it up. Like I played against Tom in his early night game. We were just like King of the Hill. We had one big old mountain in the middle, and that we just fought over the mountain. It's the only objective on the thing.
Go capture that hill.
Yeah.
Ryan actually said something in the very beginning when we were talking about stuff years ago, telling a cooperative story.
Yeah, I like that word.
That's like building the map is telling a cooperative story. Like both of you telling a story together.
You may not know who's going to win. You might not know where the beats are going to go, but you know that these two armies met in this place.
Nah, bro, I'm here to smash your fucking face in.
So the next part of it would be deploying each of your armies. And that's pretty important. You look at this battlefield that you just designed with your buddy, and you look over the rules that you guys have agreed upon, and you kind of figure out where you want to place your stuff. And that alternates back and forth. And sometimes it works in your advantage, and sometimes it's disastrous.
Yes.
For example, in a past game I had with Marky not too long ago, I decided where I wanted to put my big tank, and he was like,
I decided where to put my
my big tank right across from it. And I'm like, okay, that was bad. So
my big tank was squiggy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It was painful. So next is the phases of a turn. So really quickly to go over the phases of a turn, there's movement, there's psychic, there's shooting, then there's assault, and then there's a morale phase. Did I leave anything out?
Command.
Right.
Which is a new thing for 9th.
Yeah.
But because most codexes aren't out for 9th, it's not really.
Yeah.
It hasn't quite affected everybody yet.
But essentially, movement's pretty self-explanatory. All of your little guys can only move a certain number of inches on the board. Psychic phase is a little more complicated.
Magic.
But yeah, magic bullshittery.
Spells and such.
Shooting is the phase where you get to measure from your guys to their targets and then verify with the range that your guy can actually shoot his gun and then resolve that action. And somebody
you guys remember when there was
taken off
no such thing as pre-measuring?
Yep.
I'm kind of glad that I didn't get in those times.
Yeah, it was like,
because I would have fucked up basilisks so hard.
Oh, sorry, you're an inch out. I guess you don't get to shoot, man.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah, you already declared shooting with those guys. They are locked in.
But at the same time, because basilisk has over 200 inch range, maybe because I'm always in range, at least I'm like getting close.
And as the resident Eldar and Tau player, there's my favorite phase of the game called assault. And that's when my ass gets off the table.
Hey, you speak for yourself when you say Tau player, because I'm a Tau player and I love the assault phase. So.
Yeah. So the assault
Tom
phase,
likes it because he gets to Overwatch and throw a lot of dice around.
So the assault phase, one of the silly things about Warhammer 40k is, it's in the future. There's laser cannons. There's giant genetic abominations. There's tanks with like 5 guns on it.
And there's also chainsaws.
And then there's chainsaws. So you got to get up and close and personal.
Hammers with electrical fields.
Yeah. So that's the assault phase. And the assault phase is that kind of, if you picture like any movie where 2 armies rush at each other, Braveheart springs to mind really easily for me. There comes that crushing melee of 300.
300 left such
the Lord of the Rings, the big battle of the 3 armies with the dwarves, the humans, and the orcs.
Yeah, there you go.
But
that is some Warhammer level.
Yeah,
I literally just finished the extended edition of Lord of the Rings with Christy last week.
I need to get Summer to watch it. She's never seen them all.
Dude,
that whole chaos of just these intermingling units just bashing each other with their gun stocks or stabbing each other with bayonets or pulling swords. That's your assault phase. The morale phase is when that unit then has to think about all their actions from last night.
When you see your best friend Joe get his face blown off by Necron deatomizer.
Yeah.
Gauss Slayer.
It's like in the war movie and it's some big explosion goes off. The main character's friend just poofs into pink mist. And then all the sound goes away and like it's just like boom, and they're like looking around like, oh shit, this is a bad place to be.
And then
they run away. Really good like metaphor for that phase.
That's totally the morale phase. Like Timmy gets pink misted and like your hearing is just gone and you're just like,
I like that. Shit. I like that. I'm
gonna die.
Like, goddamn, Mike is gone.
So the last little bit that ties the game all together. There's the command phase. We'll probably talk a little bit more about all this stuff in future episodes as we talk about how the game affects how we make decisions for the armies we play. Mm-hmm. But that's as basic an overview as we can give. The last little thing that to kind of take us out and to wrap us up is I'm sure everybody has a weird dice story. So dice introduce the random part of the game. And as Mark can attest to with our very last game, where everybody told me I need to melt all of my dice, and I have a lot of dice because I'm a goblin.
Me gubbins.
I just don't roll hot. I've got all of these super alien artifacts that are supposed to just devastate humanity. And it's like one. Well, I guess my super laser gun missed.
I thought I told you to stop making up animals.
And I guess my big truck that was probably supposed to die from this super crazy heat melta lance thingy that's shooting it doesn't kill it because I rolled 2 6s on Ramshackle.
No, there's a whole thing on that.
Was not happy about that shit at all.
Mark knows like the math on some of these things, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's average." And when I'd be playing with him, I'm like, "No, this is Tom average, which is below average."
Yes.
So I mean, for a while there, I was rolling. I had bought when I first started some Imperial Guard dice from one of the local game store here in Oceanside. And they roll an ungodly amount of ones. You remember those dice? Yep, it was right in the beginning, and it was like disheartening because like I couldn't overcharge plasma because I was guaranteed to kill my guy.
That's a really good way to lose a hand.
Like it was stupid. I was guaranteed to roll a 1 every single time I threw dice. Like 3 dice, one of them's gonna be a 1, guaranteed. Yep. It was so dumb. So now I don't use those dice.
I actually have a really good dice story if we have enough time for it. It's probably like a short story. So yeah, my dice story. We have a buddy, right, who shall not be named. We were playing at his house. This was back maybe 10 years ago.
Okay.
And we're playing, and the way I used to play salamanders and drop pods with Stern Guard. Very, very in your face, turn 1, fuck shit up, and then everything dies.
Okay.
And I lose. But I get to kill a lot, and it's fun.
It's a standard Space Marine deployment. I'm going to fuck everything up in 2 rounds, and then I'm going to die.
Exactly.
And if there's anything left, it's going to hurt.
Yep, exactly. So he had a Land Raider, and I drop pod around his Land Raider, drop both my drop pods, pop his Land Raider with 1 Stern Guard, and then I kill all of his Terminators with the other And
ouch.
Yeah, it was super mean.
That's
Oh
like
my
bad
God,
manners.
It was, yeah, I know. Well, dude, look, well, this is probably longer than 10 years ago because this is probably when I first started playing.
Like, did you do that on purpose? Or you're like, oh, fuck this guy?
I thought it was going to live.
Oh, okay.
He just rolled
like
really
when,
bad.
It's like when Tom goes, I'm just going to scratch that Lehman Russ and does like 40 wounds to
Exactly.
it. And I'm like,
Exactly.
it's only got 12.
And so he kept rolling a die, and this one die rolled a 1 like 6 or 7 times in a row.
Ouch, burn that die.
It was, yeah. And so let me get to it. So what he did was he went outside and he took his dice with him. This was after the game was over. And he had that dice in his pocket. And he's like, I'm going to remember you. And he took this dice outside and put it down on the floor, on concrete floor, went into his garage, grabbed a hammer, walked outside, put that dice on the floor, and then put all the other dice around it in a circle.
And
then he fucking smashed it with the hammer.
Yeah.
And then he
teach him a lesson.
And then he pointed at all the other dice. He's like, let this be a lesson to all of you. If you are like this will happen to you.
Oh, dude, I do that with my computer parts. When when one part starts acting up and I replace it and I'm like gonna throw it away, I'm like,
you want to act up?
I do like this is what happens, and I throw it in the trash.
I do that with spiders in my bathroom.
So let that be a lesson to the rest of you.
So in I think 97 or 98, we were at a LAN party at my buddy Eric's house, and we had just all started getting our own high school jobs, and we just all started buying upgraded parts for our computer. And I want to say this is like Voodoo 3 territory.
That's old days.
And our buddy Mark bought a brand new, like he went out and he spent like, whatever it was, like probably not $8,000, probably like $5,000 on all new computer parts just for the LAN party. He came back, he set it up, he got it all working. He got all the parts in, he turned it on, and there was a BIOS error. So he goes through the BIOS error and he fixes it. And he turns it back on, and then there's another error and he fixes that. So basically like 4 or 5 IT problems happen in a row, and you can just see Mark's level of frustration.
Oh, I've been there.
Okay. He finally gets everything done and running, and he jumps into probably Half-Life Deathmatch.
I was about to say, it sounds like kind of Counter-Strike days.
Or yeah, it was before Counter-Strike. It was a little bit pre-Counter-Strike. This is like Half-Life Deathmatch mode.
Like Tribes.
No, like Half-Life, the first Half-Life game.
Yeah, that was like Tribes.
Deathmatch.
Tribes is around then.
Yeah.
Or first Tribes.
Or StarCraft. It was one of those 2 games, and he just lost bad. He picked up his computer, like violently, ripped it out of everything, walked into my buddy Eric's backyard and threw this brand new computer into the pool. So There's 2 important things to bring up about this. The pool was empty, except for about 3 inches of standing water on the bottom.
So
this computer falls 6 feet down into this hole and just fucking shatters everywhere. And the graphics card goes skipping into the water. So Mark leaves. He's that pissed off. He leaves. Done. He actually leaves for like 4 or 5 hours and then goes and buys another computer. Mark was our rich friend.
I was going to say, this isn't you. This isn't me. I was like, we're not talking about me. Cause if I would do that, I would also throw myself in the pool head first.
Dude dropped like $10,000 in a day to get a working PC for this LAN party. But our other buddy, Dan, was like, well, fuck, I don't have that good of a graphics card. I'm going to go get that Voodoo 3. So he goes down, he gets the Voodoo 3, he puts it in rice, he hair dries it, he gets it completely 100% dry, and he slaps it into his computer and he starts playing a game. And I shit you not, like 15 minutes later, his computer starts to smoke.
Oh,
the Voodoo card caught on fire inside his machine.
No, I was really hoping it was going to work.
I was hoping for a happy ending.
You know, he saw it happening. He flicked the switch. He pulled it out. He put in his card, and it was fine. But it was just, it's like this.
It was every piece of that computer
legendary
was failure.
Story in our group of friends of this like event that happened at a LAN party, and your story with the dice. I was just like, oh shit, I got to tell this story about Mark throwing a computer into a pool.
Yeah, if that was me, I would have thrown myself headfirst into that pool right after that computer.
Yeah, I've never been that. I've never been that mad. I've been close to like,
Oh, I've definitely smashed a computer, or not a computer. I've smashed a controller, an Xbox
keyboard.
controller.
Oh, dude, I have thrown controllers pretty
been
hard.
We've all been there. I've actually seen my daughter like slowly start to rage.
Develop the rage.
Yeah.
The eye starts switching.
No. Yeah. And I actually talked to Chris.
No,
I was like,
a tone of voice that starts happening.
I was like, because my wife also used to play games growing up. And like, I asked her, I was like, hey, did you ever like get mad when you play games? She's like, no, never. And I'm like,
that's
your brother,
bullshit.
your sister?
That's bullshit.
Yeah, that's
totally
what I'm saying, right? And her brother, like she said the same thing about her brother and sister. No, never raged. And I'm like, really? I was like, maybe it's a me thing. I don't know.
Nah.
Yeah, I've never.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just some people, you know.
Yeah,
I've never thrown a pull into a computer. Wait,
PC, yeah.
Well, like,
no, I've never thrown a controller. I never raged like that, like on games.
Oh, dude, I remember the day, like Mortal Kombat 9 against what is it, Shao Kahn, where he just fucking wrecks you with freaking little glowy skulls and shit. Yeah. And I just like had the 360 controller and just fucking mushed it. And it was
just like crunched.
Oh yeah, I was that pissed. I was just like, I stroked out.
Yeah. I've been there. I've been there on the rage front a couple times. I've never broken anything like because of the rage, but I've been like really, really close.
Oh. So we could probably have entire podcast series just dedicated to the almost endless details that make up the history of wargaming.
Oh, not raging.
Oh, yeah.
Raging.
And then a second podcast dedicated to
like
how you raged about all of those.
I totally forgot the topic of this podcast.
Yeah, I was like,
we were all totally focused on rage.
There's definitely a point in almost every podcast. And like I built in video game stuff for you this time, Kevin, but there's definitely a point in almost every podcast where Kevin's like, oh, is this where I can talk about video games?
There's nothing wrong with that.
I play so many video games. It's
man.
ridiculous. And that's like I don't watch TV. Yeah. The same teacher that actually taught me chess was like, he like had this little like deal and he tried to encourage us to not watch TV. He's like, if you're going to do something that engages your brain over something that just feeds your brain.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so to me, I was like,
I prefer to be fed.
I was like, that makes sense. Like, and so like my version of like watching random TV at night is playing games like Factorio, where you're like, and playing them at a very leisurely pace. Like I'm not trying to get any achievements or set any records for factory build speeds, but like, it's like a slow puzzle that builds and builds and builds as you go. Yeah. And there's no real punishment other than it takes longer if you mess up.
Yeah.
And like, that's my version of like spacing out at the end of the day. Yeah. But then at the same time, I'll also like, when I want to play, like I play games and I try to play.
That's actually not something bad to live by, you know?
Yeah. It's definitely one of those things to aspire to. Always doing something engaging.
I don't know, man. Kevin's a fucking spaz, dude.
Imagine if he did.
I'm like, damn, dude. I'm like, that's why you're so high strung all the damn time.
It's all the game rage.
Yeah, dude. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I unwind by doing puzzles. I'm like, you're a lunatic.
Maybe you do need to watch the Kardashians. You might be the only person on the planet.
Listen, watch Tiger King and get back to me.
Oh my God, Tiger King.
I was going to say, watch Kevin come home and you know, his fiance is making tuna casserole and Kevin's just like, fucking tuna casserole.
So aside from the mental gymnastics that Kevin forces himself to go through with these games, if anything in the history of wargaming or even the history of the different editions of Warhammer 40k is something that you guys would like to hear more about, please feel free to let us know. We definitely love to get into some of this stuff on some of our side episode content. Probably have already heard our first lore stories episode, which was Tom with his night household. We're going to try to do some of those unnumbered side episodes. We've got more lore stories planned for you guys, and we have some other side episodes, side category stuff that we're going to venture into every once in a while. We plan to hit up a lot more about the specifics of the game and the hobby of Warhammer, not to mention the massive amounts of lore, art, and the good times to be had building these games and stories with your friends. I think as we've mentioned in the past, between us, we have somewhere close to 70 years experience in this game, but we know that doesn't make us a complete authority in any way. We want to hear from you guys. We want to hear your experiences with Warhammer. We want to hear your experiences with other tabletop war games. And of course, any questions we may have not fully covered in this episode or in future episodes. Please reach out to us by email at either underthehiveofmadness@gmail.com or grimdarkgaming@gmail.com. Spellings for both of those can be found in the show notes along with direct links. We have, you can also join us on Discord.
Yeah. That's probably the best way to reach us. We're pretty much all on Discord all the time.
We got a pretty good growing community. You can also follow us through our various social media accounts. We're on Instagram at Grimdark Gaming, and our Facebook page is at Grimdark Gaming, all one word. Or find us on Twitter, which is at Grimdark. We also have a Patreon that's up and running, and we're hard at work trying to get everything else on it fully set up, but feel free to toss us $1 or $2 in the meantime if you're so inclined.
Coffee money.
Make sure, buy us a coffee. Make sure to follow us on Spotify, like and review on Apple Podcasts if possible, or hit us up through any other podcaster you might enjoy. Once again, guys, thanks for listening. And this is Four-Armed Emperor signing out.
Or the Emperor.
What?
I said Four-Armed Emperor.
Yeah. What?
What?
Under the Hive of Madness.